Hi, can you hear me? I
Yeah,
can't hear
I
you.
hear
I think
you.
you're on mute.
No, I'm not muted.
I can't hear you. Unmute. Are you muted? Okay, but I can't hear you. Unmute yourself so I can hear you.
Okay.
I can't hear you. Say something so I can hear you.
Okay. I
Oh,
say
did I?
something.
Oh, I know. Okay, I know what I did. It was my fault. Yeah, I had, sorry about that. It was, I had turned off my speakers because I had,
Yeah.
okay, I can hear you now. Sorry, it was my fault. Okay, so let me share the screen with your paper and so that we can talk about it. And I'm recording this session, of course, so I'll send you the link to the YouTube link to the recording if you want to watch it again, in case. So here's your paper. And we have a number of different goals and objectives in this assignment. One of them is to help you polish your English, your already excellent English, to make it perfect, and also learn how to write in scholarly academic form, right? So, uh, you know, uh, generally speaking, an academic writing is a very high formal style of writing, and it's about people communicating, scholars communicating with each other about what they believe is the truth, and so they try to make claims about the truth. So what that means is that when you're writing an academic writing, when you're writing in scholarly work, you don't typically say, in my opinion, or I think, or I believe. You avoid using those kinds of statements which imply that what you're stating is somehow, it's not truth. Academic writing is all about making a truth statement, or truth statements that you then try to prove to your reader, another academic reader, that your truth claim is in fact the truth. And you might persuade, or I might try to persuade, you might try to persuade, and we might fail, but we have to try, right? So, and so we try to persuade the reader by providing scholarly evidence for our claim, supporting our claim with scholarly evidence, typically including in the form of using and citing specific information from scholarly work. Like, that's why I'm asking you to use and cite information from at least 3 different chapters, from chapters 12 through 19, right? Because that textbook is a scholarly textbook. It went through a rigorous process of review by other professors, and critique and discussion. And another way by which to also try to persuade your readers through research, through field research. But we're not really so much focused on, doing public opinion surveys and studying public policy documents that have been issued, although we can do that. But so that's the explanation for this long, statement here, that your English is wonderful. It's just that, now you want to move to the next step, and that when you writing an academic style, you don't need to say in my opinion, right? And you avoid first person, I, me, mine, me, we, us, ours, because that just reminds the reader that he's reading an opinion, right? So you make your truth statement, you make your truth claim, and then you support it. So despite Brexit, Europeanization has generally increased opportunities for liberal democratic participation by the citizens of the EU, member states of the European Union. Um, um, and so you don't need to say I would like to. You just say this analysis introduces, or this study introduces, 2 reasons from general to COVID-19. So let me save this again and send it to you, in case I will send it to you again as I make more changes to it, because I probably will make more changes to it. And I'll make sure I send it to you. So, and also someone once told me that when when working with students to help them with their polish their English, it's more beneficial if I allow you, if the student themselves chooses how he or she wants to state something, how they want to write something. They have to view the language that they're writing as their own. So that's why I always introduce two choices that you could use, and either one's okay, either one's acceptable. I just want you to choose how you want to say it, rather than me just tell you how I think it should be stated, because that's not as helpful. So that's why I always have two choices that you can choose from, as I suggest how you might want to polish the final draft. So either one's okay. Neither of them is incorrect. It's just up to you to choose what you like. So you say, first, we need to look up for the permissive consensus. Okay, and then you put the reference before the period. So I cut that out here and put it here. And you write, the European Council Declaration was made for an EU with greater transparency and democracy. And there was a discussion that the EU needed to be closer to citizens and to something that looked more like the democracies in the member states. This statement of will or this statement of intent, either one's up to you. You can choose. However, has proceeded or has been proceeding through the various challenges. By handling many crises such as refugee problem or economic recession, the citizens were almost forced to speak out for or on behalf of their purposes. So yeah, I mean, that's an interesting statement. You're saying that the crises and challenges that people face, and these crises are pushing people that they have more incentive to participate because of the economic stress and suffering, because of the unusual situation of many people coming into their countries from outside, from particularly not only from European countries, but from other countries outside of Europe, and seeing that on the media, reported on. Of course, they're often also being mobilized and manipulated by people like Donald Trump and Marine Le Pen, and those people are everywhere. I mean, that's what leaders do, elites do, is they try to persuade and people to support them, and that means maybe making them more afraid and more nervous and more angry than they already were by exaggerating, in the most unfortunate situation, right? By exaggerating, by lying, by spreading fake news, and that's part of it. But that's, in democracy, in a liberal democratic political system, right? People are supposed to have free access to information, even if it's false information. In contrast to China, right, where China, the Communist Party of China, attempts to control the kind of information that people are receiving to the extent that they can. And that's a controversial situation that we face today because of social media, right? I mean, the point is often made, and you don't really discuss that here, but since we brought it up, right, that since with social media and what are called the algorithms, the formula that they use to get people to pay attention to Facebook, for example, that Facebook monitors what we read and look at and sends more information on Facebook that corresponds with what we like to spend time reading and discussing on Facebook. And the result is that Facebook appeals to people's emotions, because emotions are what motivate people to spend time on Facebook. They enjoy it. They enjoy it, including its entertaining aspects of it, including the emotions of rage and outrage that people experience and then share with their other Facebook friends. Did you see what Moon Jae-in said today? Oh, I hate that son of a gun. Oh, yeah, I hate him too. Oh, yeah. Oh, I look with somebody else. And so it just feeds and intensifies, which is a problem, and it's the big discussion today in 2021 about what to do with social media. Should there be monitoring, moderation of content, even censorship, because it's reinforcing people's false beliefs that, in the most extreme case, that, that Donald Trump is somehow fighting a worldwide child sex trafficking ring. So I mean, that's the U.S. case. That's not the British. That's not the European case. But you can find similar crazy, wild beliefs floating in Europe about well, what's one that I come across, that there's a plan by certain groups to replace white people with non-white people in service to Israel, for example. Crazy, wild stuff. So and so that's the question: does the European Union increase the opportunities for liberal democratic participation, or has it so you seem to emphasize that people are motivated to participate because they face pressures through crises, through economic challenges and pressures, and this is starting at the beginning of the increased. So again, I'll let you choose what you want. And if you have any questions, don't be shy about asking. Okay. Of the increased opportunities for liberal democratic, this demand is the starting line of the beginning of the increased opportunities for liberal democratic political participation of Europeanization. Also, the development of I guess the problem with the social media is that as people intensify through these self-reinforcing algorithms on Facebook and other social media formula that keep reinforcing what I already read because I like it, and sending me more crazy stuff that fits with what I read previously because that's what that Facebook understands. It's what is motivating me to spend more time on Facebook, in which Facebook can then sell advertising time to advertisers because I'm on Facebook, right? The problem is that it can lead to violence. That's the concern, that people become they start reading and reinforcing their intense emotions and stereotypical beliefs and become even more intense. And then there's these stereotypical beliefs and intense emotions are directed towards other people, the Jews, the Muslims, right? Take your pick. And there are people out there that are vulnerable and will respond, and they have maybe mental health problems, and they will act on those crazy wild beliefs. I mean, these mass killings that have happened, for example, since we're focusing on Europe, sure, it certainly has to be part of an explanation that some of these Islamist militants, whatever their real justifications or their beliefs, that they were able to communicate on social media and then feel stronger and more strongly about their views and to act on them to kill people. As they become more and more angry about the injustices they perceive that the social media interaction reinforces. Now, what does that have to do with the European Union? Well, the European Union is taking the lead on attempting to moderate and control these social media companies, right? They are the ones that are recognized as taking. Now, is that liberal democratic participation? If Facebook, if the European Union is attempting to limit what Facebook is doing in the name of preventing people from becoming mentally ill, basically, socially dysfunctional, because they become sick, because they're reading and getting more and more lies that reinforce their lies that are already in their head, that they become sick to the point that they actually do something terrible. or maybe not necessarily terrible, illegal. Like, for good or bad, it's illegal to give money to Hamas because the European Union has declared that Hamas is a terrorist organization in Palestine. So if people are reading on social media, look at these terrible things Israel's doing against the Palestinians, I'm going to give some money to Hamas, and I'm going to send it on PayPal. That's illegal. Maybe it shouldn't be illegal, but it is illegal. So if the European Union is attempting to stop social media from allowing people to do it, to make it, to monitor social media to make it more difficult for people to do illegal things, in a society where law is adopted under democratic governments, it's not Chinese law, these are the laws adopted by democracies in the European Union. So you can say that, you know, these laws are democratically formulated in a liberal democratic political system, so people should obey them, because you can't have a political system unless you have the rule of law, whether it be democratic political system or authoritarian political. You need to have, particularly in liberal democratic regimes, you have to have rule of law. So this is one way by which to begin to, you know, make this notion of, does the European Union make liberal democratic political participation more feasible? Because it really focuses upon this notion of, what does it mean to have a liberal democratic political system? And again, we go back, if you really like the European Union, you can really point that out, that the European Union authorities and the European Union, and that includes the member states, not just the European Commission and not just the European institutions, but also the member states, like the government of France and the government in particular, or the government of the Netherlands, for example, or that they are using the European Union to try to take the lead in attempting to protect what they call privacy of users of social media, because that's the issue, right? That these social media companies, they are always gathering data about me. What does Ben DiDomenicis watch and read and look at on Facebook? What does Ben DiDomenicis forward and share on Facebook? Because then they get more and more information about me, and then they can get these advertisers. Hey, Samsung, you want to sell something to Ben? Ben is this kind of guy, and Ben will therefore be very interested in your newest smartphone, Samsung. And Samsung, they buy advertising time on Facebook, because Facebook is always gathering information about me by what I do on Facebook. So that's why they want me to be on Facebook, so they can make more money to sell targeted advertising opportunities to all of these companies around the world. So when the European Union is talking about protecting privacy, like that Facebook can't continually gather and monitor and collect all of the information that they can whenever I'm on Facebook, unless I give permission. That's how the European Union is taking the leadership in the whole democratic world to attempt to respond to the challenge of social media. And the world is learning from the European Union. And again, that includes the member state governments of the European Union. And so, and of course, then the Americans respond that, you know, what the European Union is doing is they then limit the social media companies by fining them, taking them to the European Court of Justice, putting fines on them, putting new taxation rules on products that are sold through Amazon or through Facebook. And they're claiming they're doing it partly because these social media companies are, and digital Silicon Valley companies are using their monopoly power to get even more power and crush any competition, which the European Union is not supposed to allow to happen. And then the Americans respond by saying, but those are American companies. Those companies are making lots of money for America. They're American companies making lots of money for American shareholders, stockholders, whoever wants to buy stock in them. And so that's the big fight going on right now, that the European Union is attempting to use economic law and regulation to try to restrict these media companies. And then the Americans respond by saying, but you're trying to punish these American companies, but you're going to favor your own companies. But that's the big dispute right now. So, so again, I'm going off on a topic that's a little bit different from what you emphasized in your paper. But like I said, I mean, I like these. I benefit from these sessions because it provides me an opportunity to express what I've been thinking, but I don't have a chance to express it. And we only can develop our thoughts, our ideas, by expressing them, whether it be verbally or in writing, like you're doing. Both, actually, because eventually you have to write. And if you write, you think. And when you think, you develop your ideas. But it's all a form of expression. So let's go back to your paper here. Also, the development of subnational authorities is also showing that the political participation of citizens has grown. The SNAs can hold the or a veto. It's up to you to choose which one you want. This is a kind of compromise strategy between representative democracy and political participation of the subnational authorities. As the veto is not a small thing to the citizens, they can prevent something they do not want. Okay, I say do not use contractions. So therefore, it is quite an important thing on this agenda. Okay. And I respond to this comment. Okay, but the national government still dominate the member states' EU policymaking, right? The Federal Republic of Germany has very strong regional governments. It's got the strongest regional governments, typically, right? But they could not limit the flow of immigrants into Germany after Angela Merkel's government decided Germany must accept them. So, I mean, are you overestimating the role of the subnational authorities? When you say veto, do they really have a veto? What do you think? What do you think? Can you hear me?
They are really having veto.
Do they really have a veto? I mean, I got a sense from reading the textbook that they say that they're significant actors, but it's not, and the European Union and the member states have to take them into account. But it's rarely the case that the regional governments, the subnational authorities can say, no. Every once in a while, you hear a story about how, for example, there was a story about how Bavaria, one of the states in Germany, was not going to accept German educational policy, and it was a scandal. This was several years ago. But then the Bavarians backed down. I mean, I don't know. I mean, does the book say that the subnational authorities actually have a veto? If they do have a veto, you should show it. You should need this. You should cite that source, because I don't recall.
Okay.
Oh, you say, page 402. Well, let's look on page 402. Yeah, I got the book right here. I mean, I don't know if they actually, I mean, I'm trying to find where they say veto here. In this respect, SNAs are often regarded as veto players, potentially hindering the smooth implementation of EU policies in federal decentralized states. Yeah, I think what they're talking about is they can't. They can veto in implementation. They can't say, no, we reject the policy. They can't reject the policy. But what they can do is they can make it difficult to implement the policy because they can't do it. They have resistance, but they can't say, no, we reject, the policy does not apply. The policy, once it's adopted, is adopted. But the problem is that they can make implementation of the policy a problem. And that's something which, if the member states, if the regions are traditionally powerful in that member state, then the leaders of the member state and the European Union leaders know that, and they have to take that into consideration when they are formulating their policies. But that depends upon the traditions of the member state. That's the point referenced in that chapter, right? That the regions are important if there's a tradition of them being important in that country. If there's not a tradition of regions having substantial autonomous power, then they don't really get it from the European Union. I mean, they get some. I mean, like we talked about how in Bulgaria, right? They typically, the European Union wants countries to have regional governments if they don't have them, because they need to work with the regional authorities to develop poor regions of that country that are particularly poor, like in Bulgaria, right? So, okay, the Bulgarians did what they came up with their a constitution with new regional authorities after communism fell. But, you know, these regional power authorities, they're not like really strong and powerful, because there's not a tradition of them being strong and powerful in Bulgaria. So I think that's a slight difference of what you're mentioning here. The regional authorities are significant insofar as they can de facto informally make implementation of European Union directives more difficult. So yeah, that's something that again, that depends upon the traditions of that country. And you know, the European Union has not made regions powerful in Bulgaria, because there's not a tradition of them being powerful in Bulgaria. Right? The European Union has not made regions powerful in Greece, because there's not a tradition of regions being powerful in Greece, even though Greece has been in the European Union for 40 years. Right? So that's just the way the Greeks do things. Second, the crisis management has also affected the EU agenda. The COVID-19 crisis has had a huge impact on people's perceptions or attitudes towards the world. Okay, so yeah, as I see this reaction from on the big, so you know, just to conclude here. Okay, so yeah. The most, as a South Korean, was able to realistically see the reaction of South Koreans to politics from the time South Korea's propaganda policy got attention in the world to the situation where South Korea is currently having difficulty receiving the vaccines. In this situation, I felt that the citizens' political has increased rapidly through various methods, but I don't think the situation is much different. I think the most important factor in the COVID-19 crisis for the European citizens is their lives. According to public opinion of the European Parliament, the response to the EU assistance to COVID-19 are generally about fear of losing income, the rising, okay, like this or the pandemic cannot be controlled. The citizens are encouraged to follow political decisions whether they want to or not, and it drives the citizens' desires to political participation to become much more increased to intensify, even though resulting in a big incident, Brexit. We can find similar examples in historical records as well. The political participation of interest groups has raised during the economic financing against the austerity. Yeah. I mean, I think I make that point, right? That it's almost like a paradox that the European Union has made it easier for people to participate, including the nationalists, the Eurosceptics. I mean that was a point, right, in Brexit, right, that the United Kingdom Independence Party, that under Nigel Farage, that led the Brexit effort, they used the European Parliament to get elected. And then when they went into the European Parliament, they screamed for years and years and years against the European Union, mocked it, made fun of people, made outlandish, outrageous statements, attacking people's appearance. I mean, it's all on YouTube. You can look at that stuff on YouTube. You know, I used to show them in class, you know, but, you know, since Britain's now out of the European Union, I'm not showing them those clips. But Nigel Farage would make fun of European Union officials, mock them, make outrageous statements, and it worked, because the European Union institutions provided him and his supporters with a theater, a stage. And So in that sense, yeah, I mean, that's why I agree with you that the paper highlights the nationalism in Europe takes the form of Brexit, Euroscepticism more generally. So, you know, it basically legitimates nationalism, European integration, Europeanization, because now we call it Euroscepticism. We can give it a category, and so we can all talk about it. Are you a Eurosceptic? Are you a Eurosceptic? Are you a hard Eurosceptic? Are you a soft Eurosceptic? What do we do about Euroscepticism? And so we're all talking about Euroscepticism, and that means it's easy for us to talk to each other, even as we talk about how we're skeptical of the European Union. But the defense is that it's at least since it's more, our discussion is more guided and regulated and contained thanks to European integration, because that was the case in the past. In the past, when nationalism emerged, there was no general framework for regulating and discussing it before the European Union, before European integration. So there was more anxiety, fear, suspicion, panic. What are the French going to do to us? We Germans have to be ready. The French. So now it's more institutionalized and regulated, and that makes it easier to participate. But you can still get Brexit, right? So that's about it. Do you have any questions?
No, I guess so. No.
Okay, well,
I think
I
I
mean,
don't have a question.
you know, I didn't really make much changes, but I appreciate having these chances to talk with you because, like I said, I mean, I benefit from them myself. I mean, I got a better idea of what exactly the European Union is doing in terms of its role here in attempting to deal with social media and how they're doing it and the strategy they're taking. You know, and it goes back to the economic law, because 80%, 85% of European Union law is economic and business law. And so that's how they're dealing with the social media problem. What is it about privacy and monopoly power? But it's also more broadly about the role of these social media companies in making it easier for people to go crazy by talking through their algorithms and self-reinforcing polarizations of in-groups versus out-groups on social media sites. So I'll upload this video recording on YouTube, and when it's done processing, I'll send you the link. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.